Dr. Cindy Elser. Following her dream of working with marine animals, Dr. Cindy Elser moved from New Mexico to Florida. While in school, Cindy was a research assistant for the Wild Dolphin Project, a nonprofit based in Jupiter, Florida, for 10 years. Conducting research with the Wild Dolphin Project, she obtained her master's in biological sciences and her PhD in integrative biology from Florida Atlantic University. Her research focuses on the intra- and interspecies associations, behavioral ecology, and social structure of dolphin societies. Cindy has presented at many international marine mammal conferences and has been published in peer-reviewed scientific journals. Throughout her education, Cindy taught at both FAU and Indian River State College, as well as giving talks to local schools and clubs. Currently, Cindy is a science instructor at the Clark Advanced Learning Center at Indian River State College, where she also teaches college-level biology classes and is a research associate with the Wild Dolphin Project. Let's give Dr. Elser a warm welcome today. Thank you again for coming. Round of applause, you guys. Awesome.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. So I'm going to be talking today. Okay, I will slow down. I tend to do that. I apologize. I will be talking about research and education. So what I'm going to talk about today is the research that I have done in the past and talk a little bit about what I'm doing now. Is the quickness a little bit better? So right now I am teaching at the Clark Advanced Learning Center. It is a 10th to 12th grade charter high school, and it lives at the Indian River State College campus. I teach both high school and college level biological sciences, so everything from environmental science up through college level general biology. I also teach some chemistry as well. I like to use my research experience and my life, my previous life as a researcher, to motivate and to instruct the students and bring kind of some real life topics into the classroom and really kind of connect with the science that I've done and science that they can do to what we're talking about in class. Teaching has been a part of my life since graduate school as a teaching assistant, and so I always knew that I would be doing it to some degree throughout my career, but I was unsure at the time whether that would be a full or a part-time thing. I had not thought that I would be at a high school. However, the unique opportunity opened up and I took the offer. My perspective on what is ideal has changed over the years through different experiences and changes in my life. So don't be surprised if what you have envisioned when you graduate is different from where you end up, and it may oftentimes be for the better. So I've always loved animals, as anybody that knows me can tell you, and particularly dolphins. And a lot of people ask me, how did you get into dolphins by living in Albuquerque? And I lived in Virginia before that, but I've for whatever reason, have just loved dolphins. And I've always wanted to work with them somehow, whether that be in the wild or captivity. Science and math are my favorite subjects, and I always knew I would be in science somehow. I got experience working in zoos, because obviously we don't have dolphins in New Mexico, where I went to high school. I did dolphin internships and any other science experience that I could get. It reinforced and showed me my passion for working in science. And in graduate school, my advisor helped me realize my dream and connected me with the Wild Dolphin Project. So I came to Florida for the dolphins, basically, from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I got my Bachelor of Science in 2000, Bachelor of Biological Sciences, with an emphasis in marine biology. And I actually minored in music performance, because actually it's another part of my life. And then I went straight into a master's degree, got that in biological sciences, and my thesis was studying the social structure of the bottlenose dolphins that we study at the Wild Dolphin Project. That master's degree required a thesis. That thesis ended up being about 70 pages, and then I got a peer-reviewed article out of it. I took a little bit of time off, which is important. If you're going into many degrees, you need to take a little time in between, otherwise you'll burn out. So I took about 3 years off and went in to get my doctorate, my PhD in integrative biology, and I studied the social structure and interspecies interactions between the spotted and bottlenose dolphins that I'll talk to you about, and the effects of the hurricanes that happened here in 2004. The dissertation ended up being close to 200 pages, so it takes a lot of dedication, but it's a lot of fun. And I have a few peer-reviewed articles that have come out of my dissertation. So as a research assistant, I was responsible for many aspects of the project, as well as finishing my degrees. We studied 2 species in the Bahamas, and this is the longest-running underwater research group in the world. The other dolphin research groups that have been in similar time frames are all at the surface, so we have a unique thing to be able to see the dolphins underwater. I did everything. We were a small project, so I did everything from provisioning the boat, making sure there's enough food for everybody for our 10-day trips, loading it with the equipment, to conducting my own scientific research and writing scientific articles. In a small project, we all helped out and did a little of everything from small office tasks to major research. So the best and most challenging parts of the job are in the field. We would spend 10 days at sea on Stenella, which is the 62-foot catamaran you see on the pictures. And we are very far from land, over 40 miles from any given landmass. We come back for 4 days and then go back out for 10. So out for 10, back for 4, out for 10. The days were long, beginning at 7 a.m. and sometimes not ending until 11 p.m. It is hard to be away from land and your family and your friends for so long, and the ocean can be an unforgiving place. It is not always beautiful and calm, like in the pictures. Everybody always says, "Oh, you work in the Bahamas." Yes, I do, but it's not always that pretty. It can get pretty rough. Hard work is a part of field work, and you must be dedicated to it. You must love what you are doing to be able to deal with the downsides, which can sometimes be quite high. The other most challenging part is finding funding. Much of the research is nonprofit, as the Wild Dolphin Project is, and based solely on the donations and finding grants. These can be very difficult to find consistently, and if a grant runs out, so does your work. So that really is one of the biggest challenges to doing this kind of research. So the best part also comes from the field. Getting to swim in the water with the dolphins is obviously the best part of this work. We learn much more about their behavior and lives, getting to see where they spend most of their time under the surface. Like I said, in other studies, it's surface time, and they spend maybe 20% of their time at the surface. They are underwater creatures. So if we're looking at something, are these leaps that we're seeing play or aggression? And we really get to see what's going on because we see what happens before and what happens after the leaps at the surface. We have a special permit to do this kind of work. It is illegal to approach any marine mammal either in the water or on a boat. You have to have a permit in order to do so. So this field work is not easy. Waters can be very rough. Again, it's not always beautiful and calm. And we are definitely not as good swimmers as the dolphins are. But getting to spend time with such a beautiful, social, and intelligent creature is truly amazing. The other part is getting to share the results of your work with colleagues and other non-scientific people, from young adults to adults. Love to share it. One seemingly difficult thing to deal with, and one of the biggest questions I always get, is what about sharks? They are a danger to the dolphins and to us, but generally sharks don't really bother us. And often we would actually see the dolphins scare them away by buzzing them with their sound. I would see this with hammerheads. The hammerheads would come in, the dolphins would come down, buzz them, and they'd physically react and then swim away. Of course, that doesn't always happen, so you have things like the picture on the left with the bottlenose dolphin named Nose that actually got bit by a very large shark, as you can see. Tiger and bull sharks are the biggest ones that we see, but they're not always fatal. They can heal very well as long as it's not a really, really bad wound. So we were always cautious and took clues from the dolphins. If they swam away really quickly, we would tend to make our way back to the boat and get out of the water. So we also take video and photography to track the dolphins and observe their behavior. Knowing individuals is vitally important to all other aspects of the research. In a social setting, we have to know who the players are. So we can distinguish dolphins in two ways, by their spots and the nicks and scars in their dorsal fins and other body parts. So you can see on the bottom there are a few different pictures of dolphins that look very different from one another, the dorsal fins. The bottlenose dolphins tend to beat each other up a little bit, so they have those scars that we can use. The spotted dolphins have gained spots as they get older, and they're kind of like fingerprints. So we are able to use these spotting patterns to tell them apart. And this is one of my main things to do at the project, was to maintain the identification catalog and the database, and I always enjoyed this part. It was like a puzzle to figure out, a real-life matching game, IDing them in the field and also back in the lab through pictures. One of the less glamorous things I did as a research assistant was also one of the most important to the research. We did our work non-invasively, which means we don't touch them, we don't do biopsy darting, which is how most other groups get their genetic material. They had to trust us in the water, so we had to act accordingly. So the only way for us to do genetic work is to collect poop. We collected fecal material in the water in small little sample jars, just like we have for humans, and brought it back on board on the boat for preservation. We have learned a great deal about their population and how they are related to one another through the genetic research from this fecal material. So you can see on the right, my pictures there on the right, collecting a piece of dolphin poop, which is kind of like bird poop, where it's real soft and little clumps. So you go in, grab a piece, and take it back to the boat. It's not as easy as it looks, and you do get to swim through quite a bit of poop in the process of trying to grab it. So a typical day on the boat as a researcher is both mentally and physically demanding and exhausting. 12 to 15-hour days. You are using both your body to swim and collect data, and your mind to catalog and analyze the data once your body has collected it. Some days you can catch a nap here or there, but other times the dolphins have other plans. A typical day in the office is a bit less physically demanding, but is full of mental challenges. In the lab, it is a normal 8-hour day, filled with cataloging, updating, and analyzing data, writing newsletters and research reports and articles, writing grants, and doing the normal office tasks to keep a business running. As a teacher, my days are much different. Up at 6:30, school from 7:30 to 3:30. Teaching the majority of the day keeps you working, both physically and mentally, and sometimes I finish work after hours, of course. So basically, they are all 40 hours work weeks, except for the field work, of course. That always has more involved. Our researchers continuing their education constantly, reading new articles and reports, incorporating that into their work, and publishing their results. They are continually educating themselves in their field, which can change and evolve quickly in the research world. As a part-time researcher now, I spend an average of 4 to 5 hours a week working on analyzing, writing, and publishing my research. Dolphins are constantly learning through their entire lives, just like we do. As a teacher, I spend time each week working with colleagues to continue my education as a teacher, probably a couple hours a week. You are also required to take classes periodically to maintain your certification so that you stay up to date on the latest in education practices. You can probably expect to take one college class every year or two to stay certified. As a salary, talking about salary, because that's the other question I get asked a lot, well, how much money do you make doing what you do? This is a warning for aspiring researchers and biologists. Many research platforms are nonprofit, again, and oftentimes don't have very huge budgets. If money is what you seek, this type of research may not be for you. A chemical or biological lab research may be more lucrative. But as a research assistant, a high salary would be around $35,000 a year. Being the director of a project will demand a higher salary, up to about $50,000 or $60,000 a year. But the general rule in research is you do it for the love, not the paycheck. Again, I did that work for 10 years with more minimal pay, but the payoffs in the work were amazing. As a master level teacher, salaries can range from $30,000 to $50,000 depending on the school and area that you teach in. Both require a lot of work and dedication. You get to do what you love, which is one of the most important things in life, but you may sacrifice a higher paycheck, and that's just something you have to be prepared to do from the get-go. It's worth it. So my advice to you guys is choose something that you love that will make all the hard work worthwhile. Get experience in what you're interested in. This will help you figure out if you really do like it, and it looks good for future jobs when they look at what experience you have. Experience will help you get to where you want to go. Lots of times it is being in the right place at the right time. Part of the reason I got to be the research assistant is that I was doing my graduate work with the project, and the research assistant that was there at the time decided to move on to another career. So I got to slip into that work, and since I was there and I already knew the dolphins and I knew the work, I got to become research assistant and let me do what I wanted to do for 10 years. So it's being at the right place at the right time and having contacts that will get you great references. And the experience that I got, that I could in Albuquerque at the zoos and other dolphin internships that I did also helped me get this job. So the bottom line, work hard, go for your dreams. They can come true, as working with dolphins did for me. And now I'm getting to use it to share with other people like you guys. So that is it, and I'll turn it back to the moderators. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Dr. Cindy. Can you guys give her an amazing round of applause? I think it's so amazing that you followed your passion from so far away and found these dolphins and have made such a big contribution to all this. And I really want to go out on that boat maybe just for an hour. I don't know if I could do 10 days. So if you guys have questions, please type them in the chat box, and I will read them to Dr. Cindy, and she will be able to answer them, I'm sure, for us. So we're going to give you guys a second to type away. I have a question while they are typing is, how many people were on that boat with you for 10 days, and tell me about like the teamwork. Were you all researchers, or how did that work, just working with people, in the middle of nowhere on that small boat? Tell us about that if you could.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a 62-foot catamaran, and anywhere between 7 to 10 people at a time. Sometimes when we would have film crews, it would get to 12 people. But usually 9 or 10 is the group. And for the most part, we all work really well together. But again, it is 10 people on a small boat for 10 days. And like I said, it's 62 foot. So there could be tight times where you're not getting along with somebody and you just have to kind of make it work and, maybe go off into your room. And you don't really have your own room. There's usually 2 to 4 people in a bunk area at a time. But there's ways that you can, go out to the back deck or the front deck or up into the bow and kind of put your headphones on and hang out. But it really is an experience where everybody's there to do that work and to get to experience the dolphins. So we really didn't have any real big problems, just a few little hiccups here or there. But everybody really works together because they all want to be there, and that's really one of the main things.
That's awesome. We have another question. When you're working with the dolphins, I think they're talking about even on the boat, did you get to work with any other marine animals? We know that there were sharks and stuff around, but did you get to focus on any of those, or were you purely into the dolphins?
The work here, it is field work is expensive, and also you don't get too much time to do it. We only had the summer months, so we really did try to focus on the dolphins. But like I said, some days they weren't there, so we would get to go and snorkel on shipwrecks and coral reefs, and got to see turtles and stingrays, and we actually got to see a manta ray once. There weren't any other marine mammals in our particular area that we got to study, but we did get to observe and watch the wildlife in the area.
Very cool. One of our students asked, did you ever figure out if the dolphin flips were aggression or if they were playing? Were you able to figure that out, if it was one or the other?
Yeah, it's actually can be either. Sometimes they are just having fun. Sometimes they have these fish that suction cup onto their sides called remoras. You see them on sharks sometimes too. Sometimes they'll be leaping to try to get those off. But a lot of the times that we see the leaps, it's actually due to aggression, that they're fighting down below, and to try to get away from it, they jump out of the water. But sometimes they do just do it for the pure fun of it. I mean, it looks pretty fun, I think.
It definitely looks fun. I wish I could flip around like that. Let's see, another question. I have a student who asked, what courses should they be taking in high school to help them be even more marketable to go to college and get into a career like this?
I would suggest, any kind of biology classes that you can take. Obviously, you have to take biology, but, environmental science classes. If they have a marine biology class that you can take. My main thing was science and math, so I took all the science classes I could. The biggest thing to get into this type of field is to get experience if you can. Doing, like I said, in Albuquerque, there were no dolphins, so I couldn't do dolphin internships, but I did work at the zoo. So I got experience working in science and working with animals. When I got to Florida, I did those dolphin internships and volunteering, and any kind of that kind of experience you can get is what is, as I looked at when I was looking for graduate students coming into our project, that was one of my jobs as well, is to screen them. That's what I looked for, is did they have any kind of experience whatsoever in any kind of thing. And if you're interested in communication, then you want to try to do vocalization stuff. So any kind of experience you can get, whether it be with dolphins or other animals, is really important. And any kind of marine science classes you can take is good.